Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's really important to start off by saying it is sunny outside. I'm very happy. Absolutely, I'm very happy that we're sat here in our podcast room, able to look out the window and see sunshine, warmth, people walking around without thick coats on, apart from the odd random person. So good morning, everyone. My name's Mark Reed. I'm a solicitor at Laudit Solicitors. And once again, I'm joined by the wonderful, incredible, all right, I won't keep going on it, Ellis, Sweetenham.
Come on, keep going.
No, I definitely can't do that. So Ellis, hi, thanks for joining me again.
Good morning, everybody.
I know I keep pulling you into these podcasts, but you certainly do keep up to date on current affairs, on certain things that are going on in the news, and you are an ideal person to be able to bring in to pick your brains and hopefully give our listeners a rundown as to what's happening on specific matters. However, today we're also joined once again, by the great Liam Chessell. Liam, hi.
Hello.
Now, Liam has joined us. I know that on previous podcasts we've gone into a lot of detail about Liam's background and how incredible he is, but he's an intern through our Laudit music brand. Now, I won't go into more detail on that because I just want to get straight into this. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Ellis, yeah. I mean, you are really into this, aren't you? I mean, it is quite an incredible journey. I mean, sad, very, very sad, but an incredible roller coaster of a ride. And you wanted our listeners to just have consideration for a bit more background, didn't you, in the first instance, to do with the UK?
Yeah.
So fire away.
So I think it's certainly been a case that's gripped the nation and
the world.
The world, yeah. Who's Team Johnny, who's Team Amber, but we sort of have to roll back in time and look at where this all started. So obviously, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were married, they're now divorced. The defamation matter actually started in the UK, and that has led to a subsequent case in the US, which is ongoing at the moment, which we will come to. But I think it's important to start with the UK case because it was effectively the catalyst for the whole matter. So the UK case centred around the newspaper The Sun and a headline that they published which effectively claimed that Johnny Depp was a wife beater.
That's right.
I think it was along the lines of, why would J.K. Rowling cast Johnny Depp in the latest Fantastic Beasts film? He's a wife beater. Something along those lines, referring to the fact that Fantastic Beasts, Harry Potter world are potentially followed by children.
Well, families.
Families, yeah. So it was along those lines.
Okay.
So the case was brought to the High Court.
And let's be clear though, the case was by who, against who?
So the claim in the UK was filed by Johnny Depp against the Sun newspaper in relation to the headline that they posted in their paper about him being a wife beater.
How did it go?
So, in terms of the UK case, it is slightly different premise to the US case, which I said we'll go on to. So, like I say, the Sun newspaper were there to try and effectively cover their back. What they wanted to show is that what they published was either true or within honest opinion. There was no defamation had taken place. So
they were basing it on either evidence or on honest opinion, or there's lots of different areas that we won't necessarily go into too much detail, but they were effectively saying this is honest opinion or truth based on the following reasons, and then they would have listed these reasons as to why it was reasonable for them to use that particular way in which they directed their readers to come to an understanding that he was a wife beater. Now, that in itself is huge, because anyone that considers defamation to be or wishes to take action against someone under the law of defamation will always have to consider certain defences. Now, I think it's very clear to say, or it's quite easy to say, oh, but that person has said that has affected my reputation in the world. It's also something that I think, when it comes to every single person that is online, every single person that has had a history of abuse and harassment and all of these sorts of things, we have to go back to the core principles of defamation. Defamation describes an untrue statement that has been presented as fact and causes harm to the individual. So just to pause there, Liam, do you think that what the statement that was made by the Sun newspaper was, one, an untrue statement, and two, has now caused harm to the defendant, in this case, of course, is Johnny Depp?
Yes, because obviously this was before anything came out. Like, this was like before this case that's going on now. This was just based off of like what she had published. Was it in the Washington Post?
Yeah, so that's the US case. So in terms of the UK case, it's centred around, like you're saying, the untrue.
Yeah, so even like back then it was kind of like rumours kind of thing. Like no one really knew. So yeah, I do think it's just defamatory because there was no like set in stone like he is.
So your initial assessment is that this is defamatory?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are then therefore saying that it has caused harm to Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And it has arguably lowered Johnny Depp in the estimation of right-thinking members of society generally.
Yeah.
It's quite clear that that's the case.
And then from like articles like this, I'm not saying that this article is like the exact reason, but it's obviously contributed to like almost all of the articles and the reason why he was dropped from like Pirates of the Caribbean. When he was
so it's had a knock-on effect.
Yeah, when he was in Alice in Wonderland, it was critically panned because he was in it.
Okay.
Obviously, the Fantastic Beasts, everyone criticised that. So yeah, it's taken a massive knock-on effect to his like acting career.
But pause there. That UK case, coming back to you now, Ellis, was actually between the Sun newspaper and Johnny Depp, and of course anyone that is going to make a claim for defamation, which he clearly had not actually done, there would always be an argument for the different defences, and we've already established that they have claimed, they meaning the Sun newspaper, have claimed that actually all we're doing is we're repeating or making an honest assessment, an honest opinion, honest assessment of a situation that has arisen in light of certain other facts that they have been privy to. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the Sun newspaper's sort of stance was that there is public knowledge and evidence that Johnny Depp has been subject to a restraining order. There has been incidents where he has been violent. There was...
He's allegedly been violent, or it's actually been proved that
there
he has
been proven that he's been violent, not directly to Miss Heard, but previously in his life and his career.
Okay.
It's public knowledge that he had issues with drugs and alcohol. So their claim was on that untrue element. They said there's sufficient evidence within the public domain already that they have therefore formed an honest opinion that he could be,
for want of a better word.
He is a wife beater.
Okay, so whether we agree with that or not, it's not for us to even discuss what our opinion is of that.
Yeah.
However, what it is good for us to now do is consider an awful lot of information that's come up since the UK case.
Yeah, so just to sort of wrap up on the UK case, the case concluded, it was decided that the statement made by the Sun newspaper was not defamatory. So effectively, the Sun won, Johnny Depp lost. As a result of that, Johnny Depp has now filed his own claim in the US for defamation on the basis, as Liam said, of an article that was published in the Washington Post
by
Amber Heard, in which Amber Heard had indicated that she was a victim of domestic violence. While the article didn't specifically state that was at the hands of Johnny Depp, it was significantly insinuated that it was him.
It was implied.
Implied. So this is now led to the US case, which is digging a lot deeper into their relationship, into what actually happened, and is drilling a lot deeper than the UK case did.
Okay, so let's ask the first question before we can even move on to the US case. If it is determined that Johnny Depp was not, or he was more a victim of domestic violence and was not actually a, quote, wife beater, is there any scope, do you think, for him to then come back to the UK and basically appeal the decision that was made because of in light of the decision that's now been made in the US.
But I mean, potentially.
Or will the honest opinion stand?
Well, that's the thing. It's whether that Johnny Depp would be able to show that there was actually sufficient evidence to counteract what the headline said, to disprove that honest opinion, to show that actually the Sun have only looked at half the story to formulate that opinion, to then publish the headline. Was that evidence in place at the time, or is actually it's now all come out now, so it wouldn't necessarily have an effect looking back?
Okay.
Could they not take like
Who's
obviously
they?
that like the court or like Johnny Depp? Could you not use evidence to say, oh, that was published in like 2016? I used this evidence in court from like 2014. Could they not?
I mean,
not say
potentially,
that?
you would hope, you would have thought that if that evidence was relevant, it would have been used in the UK case anyway.
Okay.
We are in two different jurisdictions, so one naturally won't impact the other.
Yeah.
Because the laws are different.
Of course.
But it definitely asks the question.
Okay. All right. So let's pause there then. So we are happy that our listeners will understand the very, very sort of the overview of what's happened in the UK. And as you say, Johnny Depp has then gone over back to America, seen this Washington Post article and gone, do you know what, enough is enough. Liam, do you want to start us off? Give us a bit of a background, rather than saying where we're at now with the case, when it started, what happened?
So I kind of been keeping up with it on social media, I think with everyone. It's been available on like YouTube, it's like all over like TikTok and Instagram, everything.
Okay.
I've just been watching a lot of like Johnny Depp give his evidence, give his like witness statements. It's really, I feel like he, just from observing what has happened at the moment, I think that what he has on his case is like, it's a lot stronger than Amber's. Just because I feel like any questions that he is asked, he can like back up really confidently.
Okay, so again, so just to sort of break that down a little bit more then. So Johnny Depp has given his evidence in full now.
Yes, so in terms of the US trial sort of structure, as the claimant, or as they say in the US, the plaintiff, he goes first. So all of his witnesses give their evidence and are questioned by Johnny Depp's lawyers and then cross-examined by Amber Heard's lawyers. He then is last. So he's given his evidence, it's been tested by the other side. We now move to Amber Heard's. So
before we move on to Amber Heard, so we've already had some different witnesses. Can you give us some examples of some of the witnesses that have actually been called up to give evidence before Johnny Depp?
So you have sort of friends of theirs, previous employees of theirs. There's been quite a lot of focus on psychiatry and therapist testimonies and sort of more expert evidence in terms of the medical side of things.
So when you say there's been some friends and there's also been some employees, what sort of employees are we talking? Bodyguards?
Bodyguards, previous assistants, butlers, sort of staff that would have been with them on the day-to-day.
Yeah, would have been around, right, okay.
Did they not have Johnny Depp's, I think, was it mum or sister or both? One of them was...
Yeah, so family members as well,
Okay, and it's important to be able to give them an overview because, of course, family may well be very biased and they're going to be there to support, but of course they're under oath.
Yeah.
Friends similarly, they're obviously there to support, but employees will be there more so just to say exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
From observation, just looking as well, I feel like their witnesses weren't biased. Like, I think they admitted to some things that Johnny had done and said, like, I witnessed this, but I think for the most, they also were quite, like, they gave a lot, like, I think they just gave the truth. Like, they said a lot that Amber did, and I think it was quite frustrating watching. I think anyone watching it is like, whenever Amber Heard's lawyers would question them, they would ask silly questions, or they'd repeat themselves, or they would like object to their own questions. They did that a few times.
I heard that, yeah.
There's been a lot of, like you say, because the case has been on social media a lot, there's been a lot of other people sort of getting involved and giving their opinions on the lawyers and their actions. I think what is interesting to see is that before Amber Heard sort of witnesses took the stand and herself, she sacked her whole PR team because she wasn't happy with how sort of the headlines.
How she was being portrayed to the public.
So she's
Right.
replaced her whole PR team. I believe she may have replaced some of her legal team as well. So that sort of gives you a flavour of where she feels she's at halfway through.
Okay, so halfway through, so just before, I guess you could argue, we sort of swapped sides. Johnny Depp himself took to the stand. How did you both feel that went? Give us just a breakdown, headlines, bullet points as to the sort of things that have been released to the public.
I think a lot of the evidence was because he had a lot of video evidence, and then some of the he was questioned a lot on some events that everyone knew about, like when he lost his finger. They questioned that on him. I think one of his responses was I think Amber's lawyer, or someone claimed, was it Amber's lawyers, claimed that he cut it off himself.
Probably,
or something.
Yeah.
Someone claimed that he cut it off himself, and I think his response was why would I cut my own finger off? My one enjoyment is playing guitar. Why would I ruin that enjoyment? So I don't know.
I think from just purely looking at it as a third party, he seemed very calm in what he was saying. There was sort of no hesitation. There was no telltale signs that someone was lying. Obviously, we don't know the whole truth, and we've only had half the story, but it seemed to go the way that he wanted in terms of telling his side of the story. Obviously, his evidence ended in quite a dramatic moment. I'm not too sure if you've heard about this.
Oh, go on, do tell. So hang on, so before we go into the end there, so he's given evidence, he's been asked lots of questions. You feel he conducted himself calmly?
Yeah.
Of course, it's a very difficult situation anyway, to be asked these sorts of questions that I'm aware that he was being asked by both sides, and for him to sit himself and listen to family and friends and employees also give evidence before him. It can't have been easy. I mean, it's not easy for anyone. It's not a very nice situation to be in.
No.
But do you feel, both of you, before we move on to the end point there, do you feel he came off rather positively?
Yeah, I think
overall?
he was quite chill and confident, because he was also cracking jokes as well to everyone there, and kind of just brushing things off a little bit. There was some videos of him kind of chuckling and laughing at certain things. I think for example, there was a witness statement from a driver or something. He was vaping in the car on Zoom.
Yeah.
He was chuckling.
I think with Johnny Depp being such a world-renowned actor, it could have been very easy for people to say he's over-egging it. He's acting.
I think he
come
could have
across
played.
like-
I think he could have played up the whole
More
acting
so.
and
Yeah.
made it all
Neither
dramatic.
of you feel that he did that?
No.
Interesting. Right, okay, well in that case then, tell us what happened at the end then. What was this dramatic ending to his evidence?
So, like Liam said, they played a lot of voice clips, videos of arguments and conversations and everything that had been had. The last piece of evidence that was put to Johnny Depp was a voice clip of an argument that he had with Amber Heard, in which Amber can be heard saying sort of along the lines of, Johnny, tell the world that you're a victim of domestic violence and see how they react.
We'll see who believes you.
See
or
who
something
believes
like
you,
that.
see how they react, see what they say. And when that was put to Johnny Depp, his lawyer said, and what is your reaction to this statement? And he said, well, yes, that's exactly what I am. I am a victim of domestic violence. And that was sort of the last statement that he made.
What do the
his
kids
evidence.
call it now? Drop the mic moment.
It
That
was
is
a bit of a mic drop. It was a bit of a mic drop. And I think that sort of sets the tone in terms of his evidence, that actually the truth as he is giving it hasn't been portrayed in the public.
Yeah.
Is actually a role reversal. He is potentially the victim in this situation.
Okay. And okay, so what? Let's just focus on that just for 10 seconds here. So you're telling me that Amber Heard can be heard on a voice recording, almost belittling him and egging him on, and go on, Johnny, why don't you go and tell the world that? Maybe because previously within that voice clip he said, I'll tell everyone that I'm a victim of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. It's a very difficult thing. There's still stigma around that shouldn't be around the world in this day and age, that actually you can be a victim whether you're male, female or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's really, really interesting. This clip has been shown. He's then had to take a deep breath, and he's then said, yes, I am a victim of domestic violence.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that then leads that into Amber Heard's, I say team, it will be her witnesses and everyone that's then had to follow that, almost like after an interval, isn't it?
Yeah, so
let's
like
move on to
football
that then.
match.
So
We've
then
had
what's
half-time.
happened? Yeah.
So we've had half time. We're now into her evidence, and that has only just started. So it's difficult for us to sort of comment on it until we've got it in its entirety. But we're now going to get her side of the story, which I think will be interesting.
Well, it's going to be important too, because there are two sides to every story.
Yeah.
I know that there's one of the things I keep seeing on the news, and that's referencing, I think one of you touched on this, in terms of acting and the fact they're both actors. You didn't feel that Johnny Depp was necessarily really over-egging the acting side of things. But Liam, I'll just turn to you first. What do you feel at the moment, and it may well change because we are in the middle of evidence, what's the flavour you're getting from Amber Heard as she's giving evidence?
I think I'm getting like the opposite from Johnny Depp. Like I feel like she's definitely playing up like the emotions, kind of like she knows kind of how to like sit there and kind of work kind of like her face and body language. Like it does feel a little bit more like she's kind of egging it up to kind of get.
So even if that's
Very
not the
emotional.
case, that's the way, because of the fact that a lot of the videos are appearing online, that's the feeling that you're getting at the moment is less positive at the moment in terms of her sincerity in what she's saying. And
it doesn't feel like it's being delivered like genuinely. It feels like she's like having to play it up a little bit more, like just in comparison to Johnny, because the way he delivered it was just so like, it felt more like he just delivered it like normal, and she's kind of making it like an act.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed is when Johnny Depp was being questioned, he was very much focused on the person that was questioning him, so the lawyers, whereas Amber seems to be directing a lot of what she says to her side, which you wouldn't necessarily notice in any videos, but to her side is the jury. The jury are actually the ones that are then going to make the decision. So she seems to be sort of skewing her focus to her audience.
Oh, I see what you've done there. Yeah.
And sort of directing her emotion to them, whether that is just something she's naturally done or is something that she is choosing to do, will be interesting to see. But that's something I've noticed. She's not been giving evidence for very long, so obviously we've only got a small snippet. And different to the UK, in the US, the press are fully allowed into the court, so we're really getting clear videos and sort of the minute by minute countdown of what's gone on. So we'll definitely follow up with another podcast when we kind of get to the conclusion of the matter. So
I think it will be interesting.
Do keep your ear out for that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting when Johnny's lawyers kind of start questioning her about stuff. I think it'll be very interesting to see how she like reacts to some of their questions.
Yeah,
okay,
and
so
their evidence
what
is
I think just for now, and of course this is just opinion based on what we're seeing. Okay, so we're not making any statement here, that needs to be considered with anything but a pinch of salt. But I'm going to ask you both a question. As it stands at the moment, what you're seeing at the moment, would you say that they are both as bad as each other? That one of the parties appear to be, within the evidence that's so far been given, more aggressive and more prone to the domestic violence route of which this claim has been based? Or is it too hard to tell that you'd rather sort of keep your counsel on that for now?
I do think it's difficult to predict, only having sort of half a story, but I think what is very interesting is a lot of statements that Amber Heard has previously made have been completely debunked by fact.
Interesting.
There's a lot of inconsistencies with what she said, so that immediately casts doubt over any statements that she makes. So it would be, like Liam said, it would be interesting to see when her evidence is challenged, how that then plays out with inconsistencies that have come up previously, and whether we then get a bit of a clearer picture of what's actually gone on.
Liam?
I think he's been more of a victim, but I do think there was like in any relationship, I just think there was probably elements from both sides, but I don't think that he would have like gotten physical to the extent that she has. From the evidence or like the stuff that's been claimed in court at the moment, I do think that I kind of believe Johnny a bit more. than her.
So even with the believing one to the other, we have to now come back to, of course, as it always does, the legal side, you know, and ultimately this is a legal case. You know, they have to, you know, look at fact. They have to look at, well, they have to just look at an awful lot of things. And the reality is they have to be able to make the jury, they have to make a determination as to exactly to what level one party, for example, as the plaintiff is Johnny Depp, to what level of domestic violence he has been subject to, the fact that he's taken action against her in a defamatory nature and saying you're lying, you're saying untrue statements to me, they are affecting and have been affecting my career, you now need to effectively pay me damages and I need to clear my name. That's what he's saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to make that decision, we as the around the world, but we're not really the important ones. It's all down to the jury.
Yeah.
What do we think the jury are going to say?
It's really hard because sometimes I feel like the jury, like, when I look at cases, they definitely do make decisions that I get quite surprised at. So, I don't know. I think just from observing it from someone who, like, isn't, like, completely experienced with law, it's just kind of, like, as in a way, I suppose I could be, like, an audience.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like just from viewing it from my perspective, his lawyers and his case seems a lot better structured than hers. Like, they just seem to ask very weird questions. They seem to object to a lot of, like, of Johnny's statements or, like, evidence. Like, it like, his feels a lot more better structured, and her defense seems to have a lot of holes in it.
Okay, which could of course change, you know, and it's going to be a hard job for the jury to make a decision.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll view it like, oh, like, I don't know if they'll, like, I'm sure they would notice it if, like, just the onlooker, like, me would notice it, but I know that's just what it looks like. I don't think that hers...
Yeah, they also have advisors as well that will sit there and make sure that they're considering, you know, the correct things in terms of the law. Okay. Any final note from you, Ellis? Because this has been a really interesting podcast today, so thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and we certainly will, as we have done before, and as updates sort of come through, we will keep you updated with our thoughts on it, especially when we reach the conclusion. But it's certainly, I think, going to be interesting. It's definitely not over, and I think there's probably more evidence that will be crucial to come. But yeah, pleasure to speak to you both about it.
Thank you very much, guys, and thanks, Liam, once again for taking the time to come into our podcast room. Well, thanks for listening, and take care all.
Bye bye.